Check, 1, 2, cash. All right, let's do this. Hello, I am Ron Evans. Some of you know me as Dead Program on Twitter. I work at the Hybrid Group, and we are a software development company located in Los Angeles. And it's my privilege to speak at Ignite RailsConf last year about a little project that we got involved with, which is known as KidsRuby. And so over the last year, we've shipped KidsRuby 1.0 on the Christmas Day tradition of Ruby releases. And we've traveled all the way from Bend, Oregon to Baltimore, Maryland, and back again, teaching classes about KidsRuby. And over the course of time, we actually started to notice a few things. If we were a lean startup doing this, you'd say that we were doing customer development. But as a lean social activism project, what we are doing is child development. Think about that for 1 second. So we learned a few interesting things. One of them is that kids come in all these different shapes and sizes, and that it's possible to introduce the concepts of programming at a very young age, but the motor skills necessary to use text-based programming like Ruby, they don't acquire until later. So things like Scratch are a lot easier to teach to the very young. Another thing is that, like all things written in Ruby, KidsRuby doesn't scale, which means that we can only be in one place at one time actually teaching a class. So what we're going to do about this? Well, we talked to a lot of our friends, and a lot of our advisors got a lot of great advice, and so we created something known as KidsCodeCamp. And KidsCodeCamp is an open source event that uses open source curriculum and open source tools to teach kids the art and science of programming. So let me tell you a few things about KidsCodeCamp. Now, you may have noticed today there was like a lot of kids around here. Yes, we had our first Alpha 1 of KidsCodeCamp today, and we had over 80 kids registered and over 40 mentors. It was a fantastic event. Thank you all so much for participating. Absolutely fantastic. But this was just the first one. We have 3 more alphas planned for our global day of KidsCodeCamp, date TBD. So we're actually going around and testing this on everyone in true lean tradition. And so we've actually learned a few rules of KidsCodeCamp I'd like to share with you. The first rule of KidsCodeCamp: everyone talks about KidsCodeCamp. Seriously, you need to get the word out. You need to tell parents, teachers, educators, traditional media, literally anybody, because to get the kids there is the most important thing. So the second rule of KidsCodeCamp: kids actually code at KidsCodeCamp. It's not just about talking about code, it's the actual doing of it, and what better chance than with all of us hackers side by side actually working together with them. It's a fantastic experience for all of us. So the third rule of KidsCodeCamp is think globally, act locally. We are working together to create a shared curriculum, but it's each local community's responsibility to find the mentors, find the teachers, find the kids. We're just providing resources for them to use and to create their own local events. So the fourth rule of KidsCodeCamp: kids eat free at KidsCodeCamp. You know, we should not, it is actually fundamentally wrong for us to look at educating children as a profit center. This is a shared investment that we in industry must do in order to create the shared infrastructure of the 21st century that none of us own. Thank you. And of course, last rule, you have fun at KidsCodeCamp. I mean, coding is fun, right? Is it fun? And we need to share our joy and our passion, and if nothing else, plant the seed that it's great. Now, not everything at KidsCodeCamp went as planned. We said it was Alpha 1. For example, we invited all these kids at different ages and forgot to ask what age they were when registering. So it was a little chaotic today. But we did have some happy accidents that went amazing. We actually couldn't get our original instructor for the Scratch class, and we had a high school class come in and teach the elementary students. It was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely fantastic. So let me tell you, the stakes are very high. There is a new digital divide, but it's not one of internet access like they expected. It's the difference between those of us who can actually create information and technology and the people who either simply consume it or are consumed by it, who are the product of it. And when Buckminster Fuller wrote in the early 60s, Utopia or Oblivion, he was very prescient at seeing the global interconnectedness that existed even at that time, let alone in our modern era. I mean, technology is at the fundamental root of our society. Literally, food production is entirely dependent on technology. So if the technology that's responsible for getting the food into the supermarket stops working, our whole society crashes. And let's face it, we don't want a future where all the space shuttles are in museums, do we? No, I want the future I was promised, the one that has jetpacks. So Alan Kay said the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So I invite all of you to join us, kidscodecamp.com, kidsruby.com, become a part of the future, Don't just sit around, because the future is already here right now. Thank you.